Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Madame Leota has arrived in New Orleans Square, bringing with it a rumored upgrade for the bride. An opportunity to meet Bluey is coming.
The queue for Pirates may be getting a major upgrade. New merchandise for 2025. Construction wrapping up around the resort. We talk with author, artist, and filmmaker David Bossert and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard the DL Weekly podcast. Please lower your head and watch your step while boarding. If this is your first time listening, we hope you'll check out our website at DLWeekly.net. If you have more time to spend, becoming an official weekly tier at DLWeekly.net/support is an especially good value. Thanks for traveling with us today, and we hope you have a happy and memorable listen to this week's episode.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the new year, the week of January 1st, 2025. I'm Teg Bushman.
And I'm Teresa Erb, and Happy New Year to all the weekly tiers out there. We would like to thank everyone who supports the show, but this week we would like to give a special shout out to Amy H., Sherry M., Donna L., and Annalisa H. If you would like to help support the show and get ad-free versions of each episode, access to our supporter-only chat, and a bunch of other fun perks, head on over to dlweekly.net/support and become an official weekly tier.
Now let's get to the news.
Extra, extra, read all about it. DL Weekly reports from intrepid correspondents Tag and Teresa. You heard it here first, ladies and gents. Breaking news!
Well, Madame Leota has returned from Somewhere Beyond and opened her own shop. Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond is located at the exit to the Haunted Mansion and is themed to the carriage house of the mansion. Inside, countless artifacts from Madame Leota's collection are on display. For guests, a wide range of Haunted Mansion-themed merchandise is for sale.
Okay, the inside of the shop is what I'm going to focus on. I'll say it real briefly. I'm not as impressed with the exterior. I wish there was kind of more like stuff around the outside that we saw in the concept art that didn't actually materialize. I'll give it a pass. The inside.
I see what you did there, by the way, with materialize.
Yes. The inside, though, so well themed, so fun. And if you're a Haunted Mansion nerd, there's all sorts of fun little like Easter eggs in here too. Did you notice, or did you read about any of the little fun Easter eggs?
I've read about some of the little things. What do you, I mean, there's one thing we'll talk about later for sure. Oh,
nope. I will keep that one out. I had to double check what we were talking about later. Okay. Aside from that one, there is a portrait that honors Disney legend Leota Toombs,
yes.
Which if you know who that is, she is the Imagineer that is Madame Leota. She is her face was used, and that's the face you see in the crystal ball in Madame Leota's seance area. She's also the little bride at the end that's telling you to hurry back.
Little Leota.
That's her voice. Madame Leota's voice is someone else, but her face is Leota Toombs, which how cool that they have like I think that's so fun that they did like a portrait of her as Madame Leota. Of course, Kim Irvine is an Imagineer that currently works at the park, and it looks like she led the new shop's design. But the other fun nugget is Kim is actually the face of the holiday version of Madame Leota. So I love
and
that
the daughter
they tied,
of Leota Toombs.
And the daughter of Leota Toombs. I love that they tied it in and kind of, gave another little nod to the Imagineer that brought Madame Leota to life. I thought that was super, super cool.
What I'm most disappointed about, and I'm not disappointed that Disney did this because I don't really care. I think like people should just stop freaking out, is I've seen a lot of people are freaking out because some of the things that are in the shop are things that an Imagineer did not handcraft at a studio somewhere, that they ordered online or whatever. And there was a little bit of this with the extended queue of the Haunted Mansion as well, where people were like, well, you could buy this online. Who cares? Does it matter? I don't think it matters. I don't know why people are making such a big deal out of this. Like, it looks great. I never would have even known that there was anything here that was purchased online. I don't care if they purchase something online. It doesn't bother me that an Imagineer did not from scratch create this. I'm just happy that they have these things.
Amazing is how quickly people discovered that. It was like the store hadn't even been open. It felt like hardly at all, and people had already spotted these things and pointed them out. That was kind of impressive to me, how quickly people found that out, because I'm like you. I just look at this stuff and think like it's cool. Obviously, we've talked with current Imagineers and former Imagineers. Not everything that Imagineering does is something that's like original and something that they created out of nothing. We were talking with someone who's had been in our area of the country looking for things that then made their way into Arendelle, because we have a lot of Norwegian communities kind of in this area. So they came here and went and looked through like antique shops and stuff. Same thing with Galaxy's Edge. There was a behind the scenes on Galaxy's Edge where they would go to like, was it like scrap yards and stuff? I can't remember now specifically where, but
kind of anywhere.
They go shopping to kind of find some of this stuff. And yes, they also do create things, from nothing and things that are original for the space. But yeah, a lot of it's came from somewhere else before. And so, yeah. So again, I just was impressed at how quickly people were like, look, this is on Amazon or something. I'm like, how did you, wow. Like I need to up my internet searching abilities apparently.
Well,
I don't think...
Why do people care? Like,
yeah.
The other thing before this too, by the way, that I saw online, it was actually on Reddit, which I thought was ridiculous, was some people claim to have found the actual building that is housing this shop online as like a prefabricated thing, and there was a picture and it was pretty close to what this is, but watching this come together, it was built out of like steel and everything. I doubt that the version that you would pre-order online or whatever would be steel, like they're obviously building it to be more durable than an average something that a consumer could order. I don't know, it's just one of those things that like, why do we care? Why are people getting outraged over this? Just enjoy the fact that we have this great shop that will link to a story we'll talk about in a few minutes that kind of helps transition some of that. Why can't people just enjoy things now? Why do they have to go try to find wrong things?
Can I tell you something that's a really fun fact that came back to life or was repurposed for this area? So if you go into this space, there is another crystal ball in the space, and above that crystal ball is a chandelier. Now, the chandelier is just cool looking in and of itself because it kind of looks like spider webs. Like it's a stained glass chandelier, and it looks like a spider web kind of feel to it. But the cool thing is that it used to be in the mansion. So it was an actual chandelier that hung in the mansion where Leota holds her seances. It had to be removed when they were able to make the crystal ball kind of like float and move around. They took it out of the mansion. So the fact that this has just been living somewhere this long and someone knew about it and was like, it would be perfect. We should put that put that back in the shop. I think that was super, super cool.
Yeah. And there's also, along those lines, there's also a bat lamp that was once in the Le Baton Rouge shop in New Orleans Square that isn't there anymore. So they repurpose this. Disney doesn't like to throw things away. They keep a lot of things. So it's neat to see those things recycled. I can't wait to see this shop in person. I think they've done such a great job with this and Ray's Berets and Lewis's Critter shop or whatever. Like they've just done a really nice job with these themings lately. There was a time where Disney was building a lot of shops and it was just to pump out merchandise and get people to buy stuff. But I feel like they're doing a really great job making the shops a story in themselves.
Yeah.
So you want to go in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Disney's great at. So they should keep doing that for sure.
I love it. Well, with the return of the classic Haunted Mansion later this month, Imagineering might have a new surprise for guests. A new bride may appear in the attic of the mansion. A sneak preview of this new bride may also be seen in the Madame Leota shop as a portrait. The new bride is rumored to have a cutting-edge blend of classic and modern effects. The goal is to elevate the character to the same level as the Hatbox Ghost who appeared back in 2016. Again, nothing official from Disney. This is rumors at this point, but it's exciting.
I've seen a lot of stuff online about during Haunted Mansion Holiday, the section where this bride would eventually appear, hopefully. It seemed like that area was, like, it wasn't as open as usual. Like, they were kind of doing work there while Haunted Mansion Holiday was opening, open and running, and so they could like try to get some of this work done without having to shove it into that transition period. I think that this is a neat idea. I don't know what it'll end up being. They did say that with the different combining of technologies. That the rumor is that they're combining, of course, Pepper's Ghost, which is what gives us all of the ballroom dancers and stuff like that.
So good.
Projections, which we've seen in a ton of different things around the resort, and figure animation, meaning, sort of like, audio animatronic situations. So I'm very excited to see how this comes together, because it didn't bother me, but I know a lot of people, for some reason, did not enjoy the current version of the bride that we had. They thought it didn't look very good.
I think the issue with the current version was the technology seemed to kind of get outdated pretty quickly. So I think that was a little difficult for me, like, especially when you had that older technology right next to the Hatbox Ghost. Then I think it felt a little bit more not as good. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. And, if they're going to do
older technology in tons of much older technology that's been there since the beginning for other parts of the mansion, but that effect I don't think held as well as others have. Well,
if they're going to make it look anywhere on the same level as the Hatbox Ghost, I think it's going to be great.
Plus Pepper's Ghost effect, be wild.
I'm thinking maybe it'll be like that scene in the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction in Shanghai, where like he's a skeleton and then becomes a human. Like, that would be really cool. I think it's going to be that same technology.
Imagineering, there's things that I've only experienced via YouTube, so really not experienced them at all, but that's the only way I've seen them. And some of the illusions that they pull off in especially the overseas parks are just, I can't wait to see them in person myself, because I can't wrap my head around it on a screen, where usually you can maybe, right, the shadowing and the coloring and all that's a little different when you're watching a video of it versus, when you're in the show itself. I just can't wait. I'm thinking about like the Beast transformation scene in the Beauty and the Beast attraction. There's also one that, it's at Tokyo Disney Sea, where there's like an idol for their version of the Tower of Terror that the idol disappears. Yeah, So if like with the things that are being described in the rumor, combining all those like cool technologies together, this could be really, really great.
I'm excited to see if it comes to be. We don't know. It's just a rumor at the moment, but yes. I like to believe that stuff's coming. Well, the queue for Pirates of the Caribbean frequently sprawls throughout New Orleans Square. MiceChat reports that Imagineers are working on a solution to this issue. The solution could replace some classic areas like the Port Royal shop, Royal Street Veranda, quick service window, and the small courtyard between the shops. As sad as it may be to lose these locations, an extended, more themed indoor queue might be a good thing for New Orleans Square overall.
This is one of those things, when I first read it, I was like, what? And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, that could make a lot of sense and also solve a lot of issues, because yes, the Pirates queue is crazy. The thing that is a little upsetting to me is it was supposed to just be on Lightning Lane temporarily, and both of the attractions that were down when they temporarily put Pirates on a Lightning Lane are back up now, so there shouldn't be any reason for Pirates to still have Lightning Lane, but it does. So it feels like Lightning Lane might be here to stay on Pirates, which I don't agree with. That I think actually hinders the flow of guests being able to get on that attraction rather than especially help. To me, the People Eater rides, like, and I'm not just saying this because these are two of my favorites, but like Pirates or like the Haunted Mansion, the line moves.
Or It's a Small World.
The lines just move so fast when there is not Lightning Lane having to kind of pause things. And I feel like far more people are able to get on and enjoy those attractions without Lightning Lane than normal. And I can see, and I mean, you can say that, of course, Tag will say this, and it's true about all attractions, but those is really obvious, I think. Really obvious, because no Lightning Lane on those rides, the line's constantly moving and shifting. Lightning Lane, you feel like you're not moving at all at points. So
I would even say that with like Big Thunder Mountain does that too. Like when there was no Lightning Lane, it seemed like there was a short wait all the time for that. And with Lightning Lane, there's like, it's always inflated and barely moves.
Yeah. But the thing that makes this make a lot of sense right now is we did just have an entire new shop dedicated to the Haunted Mansion open up in Madame Leota's gift shop. And what is it? Somewhere Beyond. We have to remember what the new name is. Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond. And then the other thing too is Royal Street Veranda is just a quick little pick these things up and go place. You could easily move those menu items to other places. In fact, some of those menu items already exist at other dining locations. So that makes sense that you're not really losing much there. The thing that makes me sad is I do really just love the Port Royal shop, though. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it, but it is small, and it is kind of claustrophobic feeling when you get more than like 2 people in there shopping, because it's just full to the brim with all sorts of stuff, which is great. But again, we now have a bigger space that those items can all be in. So from my understanding with this, I think if they were to do this, you would lose the curio shop, which currently houses like the Haunted Mansion and the Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise, and maybe the courtyard that's in between there and the Pieces of 8 pirate theme shop. I feel like Pieces of 8, the pirate theme shop, would stay.
Maybe.
What are your thoughts?
The thing that I don't like is I feel like the 21 Royal Street courtyard is the last
you're right.
fun little space, because we got rid of the Court of Angels to get eaten up by Club 33. And so I feel like this is the last like intimate space left in the park.
Yeah.
And this would get rid of that. And that makes me upset, because it's like, we already got rid of the Court of Angels, and you know what I mean? Like, stop getting rid of these like little, I understand there's like thousands of people go to this park every day, but you can keep these kind of intimate spaces. I don't know. And Pieces of 8, I feel like there does need to be a pirate shop somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would do differently. Somebody mentioned in the comments of the SnackChat article, which I thought was hilarious, was that they're like, oh, maybe they'll take out the Blue Bayou and turn it into a queue space. And I'm like, they're not going to take out Blue Bayou.
Yeah, please.
Well, they're not going
no.
to.
Heresy. The only thing I could think of is if you needed that space to, again, this is just Tag and Teresa spitballing things. If you needed that space and Pieces of 8 needed to move, it can't just go away, because there's nothing currently that houses those items. And it's literally the exit gift shop. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe the new space that Eudora's is in is maybe that gets shifted, since we have all sorts of Princess and the Frog themed shopping down in Critter Country now. Whereas when Eudora's opened, Bayou Country, sorry. Whereas when Eudora's opened, there wasn't anything. So maybe you could do that.
Yeah.
But that's a little awkward, because your Pieces of 8 or your pirate theme shop is then like a little bit further down from where both the entrance and the exit for the attraction is. So I don't know how popular, like if people would know to go down there. Whereas now you can kind of just accidentally go into Pieces of 8 because it's right there.
Yeah.
But the other
we'll
thing
have to
I'll
see what happens.
The courtyard is right now, that's just been kind of turned into either more merchandise space or it's a character meet and greet. So while I agree with you, I love that space. Right now, it's kind of not being honored as just like a cool little corner either. So it saddens me too, but in its current state, it's just kind of being used for something else right now too.
You know what they should do? They should just bring back the Court of Angels and just not let anybody go up that staircase. And like Club 33 people can go up the staircase, but nobody else. That would make me happy to bring that back. But
there you go. Have like your
happen.
Club 33 check-in at the top of the stairs instead of at the bottom.
Yeah. Anyway.
There you go. Well, with the start of the new year comes new merchandise for that year. For 2025, there is the Disney Play in the Park collection, Disneyland version, which features fun activities for guests to enjoy while at Disneyland. A wide selection of items are in the collection. Disneyland 2025 dated merchandise is also out. This year, the design is more colorful, with the 2025 being more of a solid color in most of the apparel designs. This also means that select 2024 merchandise is now 50% off. I feel like it should be more than 50% off, since technically we have left 2024 behind, but not yet.
People will still buy it. I'm telling you, people will still buy it. I will say the Play in the Park collection seems kind of fun. I do like that it's a little different than the, normal kind of beginning of the year stuff. It's pretty colorful in like a not tacky way, I guess I would say. I like some of the stuff that they got going on there. Now, for the actual year merchandise, which is the stuff that I usually think is, in my personal opinion, generally comes off as god-awful, I actually think they did a really nice job this year because they're still bright colors, but it's a little more subdued, at least in the clothing area part of the line. Like, I looked at there's a couple hoodies that are linked in the show notes that I was like, I would buy that. That's not too bad. But you still have some pretty crazy out there stuff with a lot of bright colors if that's your thing. But I feel like there's a good balance of different kind of things. Because I feel like there for a while, all the year merchandise was like the same logo just slapped on like every type of merchandise you could find in a catalog somewhere. They're like, sweet, slap it on the water bottle and the ears and the spirit jersey and the lounge fly and the plate and the cup. And it seems like they've gotten a little more variety this year. And I really appreciate that. I know you're not the biggest fan of the year merchandise.
Well, the thing that feels different to me is it's not just the same logo on everything. It's unique. Like 2025, of course, is on everything, but it's not the same exact image.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yep.
I really like the variety that they've got going on here. I will say there's a crew neck that I 100% would buy if it didn't have 2025 on it, just because I'm just a person that I shy away from the dated year merchandise because I don't know. I just do. So, or if it was smaller, because it just feels like, for me, that's where my eye goes, is to the bright pink 2025 at the bottom. But I really like the design of the castle and the embroidered fireworks that they have on it too. And it says the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. So I like everything about it. But the 2025, like when I look at it, kind of is the focal point. So that's why I would buy it if that was not on there, because to me, it's distracting. The thing I really, really like about this year's Play in the Park collection is you don't know it's the Play in the Park collection. I feel like all of the other ones, again, felt a little, here's the logo, and we're just going to put it on a bunch of different things and maybe have slight variations. This feels like its own unique line, and you look item to item, you can see some similarities, but it doesn't like look like, oh, yeah, that's definitely the matching ears, Loungefly, and Spirit jersey. They all coordinate, they all will go together, but it's not in your face.
In your face, yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was just
and the
saying,
other
in your
thing
face.
too is it's kind of got a little bit of a retro feel. And I also very much enjoy that they're bringing kind of more of the classic, for me, the characters, like the versions of the characters I grew up with are what they're depicting on these sets as well. And I just really enjoy that it's fun stuff, like Mickey and Minnie riding Space Mountain. You know, like it's just cool, fun stuff that, again, I wouldn't feel weird wearing this like at any point, because to me it's not screaming it's this Play in the Park line. It just feels like it's a fun line that happens to be called Play in the Park.
Yeah. Disney seems to do this a lot, I feel like, where, you know, they'll have a period of time where they have a bunch of stuff that I'm not like the biggest fan of, and then they'll just be like, I feel like knocking it out of the park with like a lot of good stuff. I feel like this has the potential to be pretty good. And of course, you know, we have so much going on in 2025. There'll be the 70th is coming, and that's gonna be like mountains of merchandise. I'm sure you'll hear us talk about it on the show over the year, but there's gonna be a ton of stuff. This is just kind of the beginning.
Did you notice that they have a new design for the fanny packs? It's, instead of it being this past year's version, which was black, like more classic looking black with the white D, Disneyland D. This is like an all over print that has like different little characterized versions of the attractions and the castles and ride vehicles with a blue D in the middle. I think it's fun.
Could be. I think I found the one that I like for now, but maybe we'll see what happens. You know how things go.
I'm not saying you need to throw yours out and go with this one. I just think it's a fun new change up on the design.
Oh, don't lie to me, Teresa. I know you work for Disney merchandise and you get kickbacks.
Yeah, right. I wish.
Well, one of the last parts of the Downtown Disney expansion is making great progress. The walls have come down around the Parkside Market, which means the location could open any day now. The building will house Sip and Sonder, G's Chicken Shop, Soul Sister, and Vista Parkside Market when it does open. In fact, I realized today when writing this that there is a website dedicated to Parkside Market, which we have linked to the show notes.
This building, it looks so good. I want to move in. Like, I just really love the design of this building, and now being able to see it top to bottom without the construction walls, like, it just looks so good. I can't wait. I just can't wait till it's open and we can go explore all of the new places to enjoy different foods and drinks inside. It just, yeah, I'm so excited for this area of downtown Disney. It's finally coming together and it looks really, really good.
The sad thing, I feel like, and maybe I'm just in the minority here, but I feel like I'm more excited about stuff that's around this area of downtown Disney than I am about all the stuff that's like in the main part of downtown Disney. Like, when I think of places I want to go,
is down there, yeah.
Well, when I think about places I want to eat, I'm just not that excited by any of the options that are in the main section anymore, but I'm really excited about the stuff that's going to be here. And I'm excited about, like Din Tai Fung is very exciting. Of course, Earl of Sandwich that'll eventually be open here. All of the places we just talked about, Sip and Sonder and the Parkside View and all of those things, Soul Sister, the Chicken Shop, like all these things sound like places I want to eat. And it also sounds like they won't, hopefully, we don't know yet, won't be outrageously expensive because like seems like some of the stuff they've done, Centrico and all of that stuff in the middle, it seems like those things are a little pricey for what they are. So hopefully these will be a more budget option for more people who, we already spend a lot of money at Disneyland. Allow us to eat something that tastes good that doesn't cost an arm and a leg as well. But I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what all the food and stuff looks like from these different locations. And what great view you're going to have, right? Up on that Vista Parkside Market, like up on that second floor, being able to see over, that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious, and I'm enjoying seeing the Disney Wonderful World of Sweets kind of coming together. They have the exterior colors and paint job done. The new sign has been installed. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but it's reminding me of like the old Disney stores and kind of like how they'd have those. I don't know if it's something about the sign, but it's making me feel that way. So I'm hoping maybe once the doors open, some of those larger than life characters will be up decorating the store like the old Disney stores used to have. But I don't know. There's something about this that now I wasn't sure about the retheme because I really liked Marceline's because I really loved the tie back to Marceline, Missouri, of course. But I do think it's fun that instead of Wonderful World of Disney, it's the Wonderful World of Sweets. I do enjoy that play on a classic, but I think it's the colors on the outside of the exterior of the building that maybe made me go, ooh, I don't know, but it's coming together. It looks like it could open any day now.
I'm only sad that we lost the Marceline's name.
Yeah. You're good with the colors?
I think it's going to look fine. I think it's nice to have a pop of color and stuff like that, as opposed to kind of the tans and the browns and stuff that were in this area and the greens and stuff before.
Sure. Well, I guess Marceline's just had a more classic look, whereas Wonderful World of Sweets is more whimsical.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm excited because people say that this might be kind of Willy Wonka-like inside, and I'm like, ooh, this makes me excited.
See, okay, now if we could mix Willy Wonka and then throw in some of those like classic Disney store vibes, perfect.
Classic Disney store was childhood, yes.
Well, something is finally happening at the old ESPN Zone building in downtown Disney. This is like the most exciting news ever. Construction walls have gone up around the building, and permits show that the space will split into 3 spaces, 2 downstairs and 1 upstairs.
And MiceChat was saying that they think that one of these spaces is going to be a Funko like experience or store or something like that, which people love Funko stuff, so that'd be awesome.
There's also a rumor that a Loungefly store might be coming, which Funko and Loungefly would make so much sense in downtown, because of course they do all sorts of things with Disney. But I'm just so excited because from the average guest, this just felt like a big opportunity, and it felt like a very big opportunity for quite a while. We had learned from people that knew behind the scenes stuff, whether they be cast members or people that had been in this building, that this building had been being used kind of like as backstage kind of stuff. But it'll be nice if these permits are hopefully hinting that this will be open back up to the public to enjoy too. Now we just got to wait and see what's going to happen with the Star Wars Trading Post, because I feel like there's a lot of potential there as well.
Yeah, there's still a ton of empty space in the Trading Post, which was the old Raiden Forge Cafe. But you're right. This has been a eyesore to people who have been in Downtown Disney for so long that there's nothing from the outside that tells you that anything's going on inside. And so it just feels like for a place that you would think is so like square footage wise valuable at the Disneyland Resort, and to just sit there, it's great that there's some movement and there might be actually something that the general guest can actually enjoy. And I'm very, very excited for that. And they did what they can. They slapped a bunch of Disney Plus stuff on there, which was, nice. I love the murals they always had there and stuff, but it'll be better to have like an actual experience or something going on here. And I think it'd be wonderful. Also, they have a rooftop. They had painted the rooftop for ESPN Zone to be like a baseball field or something. They should just have like a patio or something up there that they could charge extra for to watch fireworks from. Like, people would do it. I don't know. There's nothing but opportunity in this building, and I'm glad that they're finally taking advantage of that and not just letting it languish. Well, a construction project long in the works between Cars Land and Avengers Campus has finally wrapped up. A new guest seating area has been added across from Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters. The area was previously themed with desert plants. This area will be great to enjoy cozy cone delights, because there really isn't a lot of seating over there.
There isn't. So, I mean, this one, like, I'm happy about, but I'm also sad about, because I did like all of the landscaping and all the work that the horticulture team had done in this space, but also it does make sense to expand some shaded seating area, especially in Cars Land, because there's not, unless you're at Flows, there's really not a ton, there's like no seating, it feels hardly, especially shaded seating. So this will be nice.
My question about this whole process, though, was we watched David from Fresh Baked. He does construction videos all the time. And this place was under construction with felt like forever just to basically pave it over. Like, what?
There had to have been something else going on. There had
to have been. But I'm glad that it's done. And it is quite a large space, more than I would have like registered in my mind walking by it before. Now we just need the construction that they have going on behind the like main building at the Cozy Cone Motel to like get finished, because that's been going on for a really long time too. It's just interesting with Disneyland, right? Like, it seems like sometimes there's projects that like happen in a flash and you're like, where did that come from? That popped up out of nowhere. And then there's things that seem like they've been going on for months and you're like, what is happening? Why is it taking so long? One of those things that's kind of funny to me, and Teresa, I know you know this because I think, looked at it when we were there. There's a construction wall set up by the train station when you enter that has been there for months and months and months and is just there. So, like, what's going on? And, like,
we thought that, maybe it's something to do with, the light posts and the lamp posts that we're having issues, and so we thought they were swapping something out. Oh no, it has to be something else, because either that or they just started and haven't come back to it, so it's just been kind of sitting. But it's crazy. Okay, I need to retract my answer a little bit. The one thing that makes me sad about this area is I'm looking at one of the angles of photos that Dusty posted. This butts right up to where the Welcome to Radiator Springs sign is, so this impacted theming, I think, a little bit, because you're supposed to see the Welcome to Radiator Springs sign while you're driving down the road, so there shouldn't, like, the fact that there's now like trash cans right behind it. Like, I wish there was a little bit, maybe eventually the sign will get bumped up a little further so it's not right at the entryway for this new seating area, but I wish there was a little bit more space. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And same thing, like the backside of the sign now, when you're leaving Radiator Springs, you can't see it quite as well because there's like a fence there, because they want to make sure that guests aren't walking in what the like landscaping and garden areas and keeping them in the extended seating area. But so the sign placements theming is bothering me slightly, but overall I do think it's good. That's something that easily they could remedy. Do you know what'd be fun though is sitting here and watching Luigi's. Like, sitting there and like watching the cars spin around. This would be great if like maybe not all the family members want to go on that specific attraction. They can still kind of be a part of the fun by watching the family spin around while they're firmly seated in their shaded seating area.
Yeah. And being able to get through like the full rotation of songs maybe while you're eating. Like, it's not like the same song over and over, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, This is crazy, and I know Tag's going to be just as excited about this next story as I am. We get so excited for these weird little nuggets, and I'm sure other weekly tiers will as well. But something has returned to the Indiana Jones adventure queue. The safety video with Sala has returned to its more extended version with more of the theming and story elements than just the use your seatbelt selection. And what is it? Because what was it? It was bumpy. That at least stayed.
When your journey becomes a little bumpy.
Bumpy. Yep. Well, this is a welcome return as the video is able to loop multiple times for each guest recently. Because they did. They had just a little section of the safety video, which made sense. Because during COVID, you just kind of walked through this room when they had social distancing. But now, when you're standing in there, you hear the loop 5 times or so, it feels like.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about this is they spent so much time and effort on this queue system, right? That, like, why would they not have... Like, it seems like a shame to waste it. And I know during COVID with social distancing that people were not in this room very long, so it made sense.
Yeah.
But we have not had social distancing for years now. It feels weird to say that because I feel like COVID feels like an eternity ago, but also like yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
But like it feels like for so long that we have not had this, and it's good to have at least partial back. I'm very excited for when I go that this will be doing the longer spiel because they had a whole thing.
There's a whole backstory,
yeah, and I remember standing in line for this, and what they do is they have this like news report where they talk about something, and then they'll have the safety spiel, then they have like a different news report about something else, and then they have the safety spiel. So like you got through it, and so I really missed all of that because before it was like, this is Sala. When you enter the chamber, make sure you put your seatbelt on, or it'd be very bad to not do that or whatever, and then it would like repeat. And so it's nice to have the story.
Yeah. It talked more about like why you should or shouldn't look into the eye of the idol and just why the temple was there. Like it flushed out the storyline of what the temple was and why you were there.
They even had people come out, like there was like the young kid who like had all the money and they're like, this one visited the Temple of Riches or whatever. Yeah. And then like there was like a baby that was like, this one drank a little too much from the Fountain of Youth. Like it like really gave you the idea, like you said, like the story of like why, like what you're going to experience. And because I think now like you kind of go in and there's not a lot of that pre-story. So people are just like, oh, we're just driving through this. Okay. But there's more of it than that.
And especially, I didn't realize about the whole, like, you looked into my eye. Like, that would mean nothing to you if you hadn't experienced the full version of the pre-show. Because the pre-show explains, don't look into, don't do this. Bad things will happen if you do this. So when you're on the attraction, then all of a sudden, Mara's yelling, you looked into my eye. If you didn't know, you'd probably be like, huh? Like, that doesn't make sense. Whereas having the backstory makes it make a whole lot more sense. We love a good pre-show.
Yes. Well, fans of the Australian hit animated show Bluey have something big to celebrate. A Bluey movie is coming to theaters, which means that Bluey and her family will be at the resort. No firm timeline yet, but it is coming. A preview of what this could look like was at the D23 Ultimate Fan event, where Bluey and Bingo had a meet and greet. I know that Bluey is very popular, especially with anybody who has small children in their life.
And holy wow, was that meet and greet crazy popular at D23. You could sign up to get a reserved time, and there was times constantly throughout the weekend. And I want to say they all booked up.
Yep.
And every time we walked past that part of the pavilion, it was just so many people excited to go meet Bluey and Bingo.
Have you seen Bluey at all, Teresa?
I have not seen Bluey, no.
It is so cute. And, it's one of those shows that it's meant for like preschool age kids. But there's enough stuff in there that adults can appreciate too. And that's where I think it's been really successful, is that people of all ages can enjoy it. And so there's a ton of people who love it. I will tell you right now that if you watch it, their little theme song is very catchy and will get in your head. And it's just great. It's on Disney Plus. You should go. They're short episodes, very short episodes. Like we're talking, I want to say they're like 8 and 10 minutes or something like that a piece. So one of these times, Teresa, when you got a few extra minutes, instead of popping on a YouTube video, just go pull up a Bluey episode and see what it is, because I think they've been pretty fun.
So actually, completely unrelated, but I think you might find this funny. Vern and I, what we've been doing now, we've been watching Doogie Howser, because I had never seen...
I love Doogie Howser.
I've never seen Doogie Howser, so we started watching Doogie Howser because it is now available on Disney Plus. I think it's maybe under... I don't remember if it's on Disney Plus proper, if it's under the Hulu favorites, but either way, it's there, and we've been watching it, and it's so fun.
Isn't it fun watching him type on that really old computer doing like a basic like journal entry every episode? Yeah. And it's Neil Patrick Harris when he was like a kid. Mm-hmm. And he's like an adult with kids and stuff now. It's just like weird to think about.
Yep. Too funny. So when we take a break from MPH, I'll watch some Bluey too.
I'm just saying, if you don't have time for like a Doogie Howser episode, just take a couple minutes. Like I said, it's real short. You can watch it while you're brushing your teeth, getting ready for bed at night or whatever. Like, it's quick like that. Put it on your phone or something. It's really enjoyable. And I don't say that about a lot of kids stuff, but I actually think it's really good.
I am Groot.
What do you mean you're hungry? Kraglin needs those pots for the rehydrator. We don't have time for snacks.
I am Groot.
Were you talking to Tag and Teresa again? How'd they even get a hold of you?
I am Groot.
Fine. One snack. That's it.
I am Groot.
No, I haven't seen any churros. You gotta talk to Vern. And stop smiling.
Well, for this week's Snack Chat, we are heading over to Disney's California Adventure, back to the Avengers campus, and we're going to go check out Pym Test Kitchen. I have to laugh. I need to give everyone a little behind the scenes. For some reason, I have a hard time with this, and Ted very kindly had put a little note that says, not Pym's Test Kitchen.
A ton of people say Pym's Test Kitchen, but that's not the name. The name is just Pym Test Kitchen. Yep.
I think it's hard because you think of Pym as a person, so it's like Luke's Diner, not Luke Diner. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the great things about Pym Test Kitchen is it has breakfast, and it's open usually like when the park opens, so you can get breakfast pretty early. And Teresa would be surprised if she wasn't there when this happened, but listeners might be surprised that there's a cold brew here that I like. That is a seasonal offering,
currently.
But it's there, and it's the Experiment 7290, which actually, I'll get into that in a second. The Cookies and Cream Cold Brew, it's a chocolate cookie cold brew with sweet cold foam. I had this, and it was very good. And what's even crazier, and it just made this connection, my address growing up as a kid was 7290 Bolita Avenue.
Ah, that's funny.
So that's crazy. Yeah.
So the story of this is, I ordered it, of course, because it's a cold brew. So science, I must try them all. And I tried it, and it's very sweet and very not coffee tasting. And so whenever I get one of those, I look at Tag, I'm like, you might actually like this, because Tag doesn't like, he likes the smell of coffee, but not the taste of coffee.
The bitterness.
And so he kind of like did a, and like begrudgingly tried it as always. And all of a sudden, like, you just saw this light spark, and he was like, wait a minute, like tried it again. He's like, I like this. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to go order my own. And I was just baffled, because usually I'm like, oh, he'll like this one. And he tries it and he's like, no, it's still bitter, but not this one. There's something magical about
if you like sweet
cream. Mm-hmm. If you like sweet and caffeine. Sized to share, this is going to be this is on anytime. So you could have this for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, but we're talking the Quantum Pretzel, which is giant. We've had friends that will order this and then ask for a to-go container. They just munch on it throughout the day because it's huge. And really, for the size, it's a decent priced item to be able to have a snack in your bag all day long.
I will tell you, it is something that easily can be pulled out of your bag and eaten while you're in a queue somewhere. And because it's like a bread, it fills you up. Like it's actually a really good hearty thing to kind of carry with you throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Next time, I think we go with Vern. This is good. We should get every day that we're in DCA. We should like hook him up with a Quantum Pretzel, because he's always snacking while we're in line. So this can be his like day long snack.
So a couple of the breakfast entrees are the calculated breakfast, which is eggs 2 ways with smoked bacon, crispy potato bites, and focaccia toast, and a Cinnapim toast 2.0, which is a challah French toast with smoked bacon and maple syrup with blueberry-flavored popping spheres. They've added the popping spheres, I think, since the last time I had the toast.
It's 2.0, so they've made some changes because the original Cinnapim toast just had like blue swirls in the bread. Yeah, I don't remember last time we had it having the popping sphere, so that's exciting. That's one of the fun things about Pim is they change up the menu pretty frequently, which, right, good and bad, because you get new things, but then maybe some of your favorites go away. But so far, I think for them, it's just been enhancing the menu thus far.
Yeah.
The plant-based option for breakfast here is the Impossible Quantum Garden Breakfast, which is a plant-based folded omelet with Impossible breakfast sausage, crispy potato bites, and focaccia toast. For those of you that don't know, the potato bites are tater tots, and they have really good tater tots here, by the way, side note. But I don't think Vern's tried this one yet, but it sounds good.
Like I said, like you said, they keep changing up the menu, so it doesn't surprise me. You can get some sides for the breakfast. You can get turkey bacon for breakfast, and then they have smoked bacon, a side of the beer cheese sauce, and the potato bites, like Teresa said. And then, of course, the kids' meal, too.
So for kids' meals options, we have the Nano Egg Spearmint 101, which is eggs, turkey bacon, toast served with cuties, and a choice of milk or water. And there's also the full-grown French toast sticks, which is made out of the challah French toast sticks with turkey bacon and maple syrup. Again, with those fun blueberry-flavored popping spheres, mandarin oranges, and milk or water for your choices of drinks.
And the one beverage that I have to point out, because it is unique to Pim Test Kitchen, it's available all day, is the Proton Punch, which is a lemonade, berry puree, cherry-flavored boba, and grenadine-filled pipette. So that's kind of a big deal at this location. Also, is it the Pingo Doce or whatever? Is that the other drink?
Oh, yeah. That's a fountain. Yep, one of the fountain drinks.
Yeah.
Okay, Tag, I skipped ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you pull up the menu for lunch and dinner yet?
I did not.
Something is missing, and I think
I've heard about this
missing,
before, yeah.
And it has solved a lot of your inner I don't know, back and forths with yourself.
I had heard this one away a couple months ago, so not earth-shattering to me. But what was it called?
The Pimnini.
The Pimini, which when I first tried it was amazing, and then every time I tried it afterwards was not amazing.
He kept trying so hard
because
to like
it was
again.
So good the first time.
Yes, yeah. The Pimini, I don't know, escapades.
Yeah. Actually, this other one sounds really good though. The reactor melt, which I think is a newer really thing.
Good. Oh, you know what? Vern tried that because it's vegetarian. Vern tried that and he really, really liked it.
It's garlic pesto toasted sourdough with mozzarella, basil, and tomato served with potato bites. That sounds really great.
Mm-hmm. My two favorites on the current menu are the Not So Little Chicken Sandwich, which is a fried chicken breast teriyaki. Oh, no, maybe they haven't changed it. I don't remember there being teriyaki on it before. Anyways, fried chicken breast, teriyaki and red chili sauces, and pickled cabbage slaw on brioche, served with crispy potato bites. And newer to the menu, this one I think has become like a fave, is the humongous taco salad. So not only does it look hilarious and ridiculous because it looks like a giant hard shell taco, but it tastes really nice too. It's a taco shell loaded with romaine tossed in chipotle ranch, topped with chicken, corn, bell pepper, cotija cheese, and avocado.
Ooh, that sounds good. And then finally, they have a pepper particle pasta, which is a campanelli pasta topped with grilled chicken, spicy tomato cream sauce, chimichurri, and parmesan. And then, of course, the plant-based thing, which is like a thing to behold when you see it, is the Impossible Spoonful, which is basically a giant Impossible meatball. So rigatoni and ditalini pastas, plant-based meatballs, tomato sauce, and dairy-free parmesan and micro basil. Ooh.
So fun. So fun. When you were reading that pepper particle pasta, I feel like that will be on your try list. That sounded
probably, but that reactor melt sounds so good.
We can do both because this is the magic of Pim is you wouldn't think that this would be it's honestly one of my favorite places to eat in DCA, and it's never what I expected that when we first were learning about Avengers Campus and PIM. But honestly, there's not too many exciting things happening in Avengers Campus for me most of the time, but we always seem to make our way to PIM multiple times in a trip.
Yeah, I'm looking because I wanted to see a picture of this, and allears.net had they still have the panini sandwich on their pictures, but they were saying that they're pictures of all their different meals. And I think the thing that we had before was the not so little chicken sandwich.
You're right.
Because this is...
Well,
yeah.
This is called the not so little chicken sandwich. I think they just switched up the recipe.
Something.
Or
but
either that or it had teriyaki and I forgot about it.
They also had this thing called the compound crustacean shrimp salad that I never saw. Anyway, the reactor melt looks really good. It looks like a grilled cheese with like tomatoes and basil. Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah. No, Vern tried that when I had gotten the humongous taco salad when we were out there last time. And apparently it was so good that he just inhaled it and I didn't even get to try a bite because it was already gone. Like by the time I was like, hey, can I try it? Oh.
One thing I will say
take a bite
about PIM Test Kitchen is if you can mobile order, you should definitely mobile order. They have improved, at least the last time we were there, they have improved the standby, like the walk-up ordering process, because there was a couple visits there, Teresa and I went, and that line did not move. But the last time we went there was pretty good. So if you can mobile order, do that first. But then also we've never really had a trouble finding seating or anything at this location, which is really nice.
And yeah, no, I was looking at the picture of the not so little chicken sandwich. And I can't tell. Maybe my memory's wrong, and it has always been those ingredients, and I just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Still looks delicious, though.
Well, you've heard us talk about our great experiences staying at the Howard Johnson Anaheim. Well, we have partnered with them to offer our listeners some cool discounts. Weekly tiers could get 15% off of their stay. To take advantage of this discount, head on over to DLWeekly.net and click on the Howard Johnson logo. Be sure to use the promo code on our website to get the discount.
The other thing I want to quickly mention is if you follow us on Instagram and have seen our photos or videos of the Howard Johnson and the beautiful rooms that we've stayed in, we typically like to stay in buildings 1 and 2 because those have both been newly renovated. Buildings 3 and 4, last we had talked with our friends at Howard Johnson, are going to be getting updated soon, but not just quite yet. So if you want to stay in those updated, renovated buildings, it's buildings 1 and 2.
Pilots, we've detected some producer questions near Jakku. Report to your DL Weekly vessels and make the jump to hyperspace. The 7-7 Squadron will provide support during your trivia mission. Good luck, and may the Force be with you.
Hello there. You made it to Trivia Land. Welcome. How you feeling?
I mean, SnackChat was pretty darn delicious, so.
Yeah.
I mean, Avengers Campus will do that, right?
I am hopeful that in the new year we will do better at trivia, but it probably is not going to happen.
Hey, well, we'll make sure you go out with a bang in 2024. I've got 4 tough questions for you.
Wonderful.
I am not being kind as this New Year's ends, but we'll see what happens next time. So, are you ready? My first question, as I'm sure you're still embracing that positivity mindset that is working so well. First question. What band added a rockin' theme to Space Mountain and California Screamin' for a short time in 2007?
Oh. The only thing I can remember, which is not right at all, is like the Beach Boys when it comes to Space Mountain, because they wanted that like feel, but that is not it at all. 2007?
2007.
I want to say it was something like Metallica, or it was some like rockin' kind of thing. I'm going to say Metallica.
Rockin' Space Mountain.
I'm going to say Metallica.
Wasn't that part of the question? You think it was?
I mean, because Metallica. Wait, who are the people that were in Rock and Roller Coaster? That wasn't
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith. Oh, maybe it was Aerosmith. I'm going to stick with Metallica. I don't know any rock music. I'm sorry.
It's like nothing says Space Mountain like Enter Sandman. Question number 2.
I'm going.
Teresa didn't give an answer.
I'm going to go with.
Sorry.
I don't
thought you
know.
were going Beach Boys.
No, I remember they wanted like the feel of that when they were going with the like music that's in there. Anyways, I'm going to go with the Stones.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. just take off and you just hear Roxanne. Anyway, moving on. Question number 2. In 1987, what type of temporary ride was added to the park that Walt had explicitly avoided adding when Disneyland first opened? I do have a hint to offer for this one
Is it an attraction that's still open?
87?
Not still open.
You
Very, very temporary.
Oh, wasn't there Ferris wheel?
Oh, maybe. But 1987, why 87? Wouldn't that have been open with the Oh, maybe not. Why would there be a Ferris wheel?
I thought there's something tickling my brain that there was a Ferris wheel temporarily at Disneyland for some specific event. I don't remember. That's as far as the tickle is going right now.
87.
It is definitely a ride that was not at opening day, so.
And Walt didn't want to have it.
Allegedly. I haven't been able to ask him specifically, but
The zipper. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna hop on Teresa's Ferris wheel and say,
I could be completely wrong.
because I'm looking at, because we can see the question in our document, not the answer, just the question. You said what type of temporary ride? So a Ferris wheel would be one of those things. So I will hop on your Ferris wheel, Teresa.
Hop on my Ferris wheel. Go for a spin.
Yeah,
it's not the wheel of death though, right?
not the wheel of death.
Not that one.
You're on the simple gondolas, buckets.
No, I like the bucket ones that go around, because I don't like the ones that just have like the lap bar. I'm not a fan of those. I want to be fully
Those ones are a little
enclosed.
terrifying too.
Yeah.
They also seem to go faster. I don't know if that's real or if that's just in my head that they're moving faster when it's the lap bar version.
One of the most terrifying one of those that I've been on that was stationary was, it's in Sandusky, Ohio, Cedar Point. And there's a Ferris wheel right there, but it's on the lake. And so when it's windy, everything wants to like move. And I remember my roommate that I went there with did not like Ferris wheels. And he was death gripping the center pole, because it was one of those, like, it was just the center pole that held up the whole bucket. And all I was thinking was, that's one pole holding up this whole bucket. And we're swaying quite a bit. And so I even was a little nervous.
Yeah, no.
My mom doesn't like Ferris wheels either, because her dad was riding a Ferris wheel and it started a lightning storm. Nothing happened, but
Yeah, but that would not be the place to be.
No,
not at all. So, all right, well, let's move on to question number 3. Also in 1987, the park introduced Disney dollars. How much money was initially put into circulation?
Oh,
like total.
wow.
Disney dollars, right? So cute.
Let's see, 87.
Money.
Let's
total.
say $100,000. Because I was going to say like $10,000, but I'm like, that's not a lot, really.
That's not a lot.
But I don't think it was like an insane amount, because I assume that it was like, they didn't know if it was going to be super popular. So why would they? They wouldn't make like millions of dollars, probably. Because you said initially put into circulation.
Initial circulation. Yep.
You know what? I feel like it's probably higher, because just think of how many people would, like, right? They had to pre-print these things, and they had different denominations, so you couldn't. Yeah, I'm gonna say like 500,000.
All right.
$500,000.
Yeah, because think of how many people go to the, would be going through the park every day.
I wish they'd find some way to bring Disney dollars back that would make sense, because Disney dollars were a cool collectible, and they were fun, and they could change. I don't know.
All right, my last question for you is asking a very coincidental question. So, Main Street is set in about 1910. Tomorrowland is set in about 1986. What out-of-this-world object do those dates share a coincidence with?
What?
1910. 1910
What
and 1986.
out-of-this-world objects? Is that like Halley's Comet? I'm going to say Halley's Comet, because wasn't that like a thing? Doesn't it only come around every like 75 years or something? That's what I'm going to say, Halley's Comet.
That's a good guess, Tag. I was thinking something physically in the park.
I mean, it could be.
If there's some connection to something physically in the park.
But see, I usually don't I don't usually look at our screen when James puts the question in our document, but I'm actually reading it, and I'm seeing what out of this world object, which makes me think that like it's not on Earth.
Not in this world. Because I was trying to think like what happened in 1910 and happened in 1986. That maybe, but I was thinking like Disney specific things, like specific to the family or whatever. But yeah, you jumped on my Ferris wheel. I'm going to hop on over onto your comet.
There you go.
Or grab a hold of the tail or whatever.
Trying to decide which ride sounds more thrilling.
Yeah. The comet, definitely the comet.
Yeah. All right, 4 questions down. That's all I got for you this week. But we got to wait a bit for the answers. You two got a discussion topic to get to first.
Well, this week we are very excited to welcome David Bossert, who is a producer, creative director, and author. He does a little bit of everything. Oh, and podcaster. We forgot that one too. So welcome, Dave. We're very excited to have you on today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to come on and talk with you.
Well, good to have you. You have quite a collection of books, which between Teresa and I, we own quite a lot of them. So,
and I thank you. I thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, I was happy.
You're keeping me off the streets.
That's good. That's good. I was happy because I opened my House of the Future book today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Dave signed this one," because I'd forgotten. Because we've gone to a bunch of stuff, and we have so many Disney books. I'm like, I don't remember who did what or whatever. Anyway, I'm very excited to talk about all your books and your history and all of that good stuff. So let's start from the beginning, which is tell us your Disney story. What got you interested in Disney or the parks? You can be as detailed as you like with this. How'd you
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I was a fan of animation, but I wouldn't have called myself a complete Disney nerd early on. I did like watching animation growing up, a lot of the TV stuff like the Flintstones and the Jetsons and things like that. But I do have a fond memory of going to see a re-release of Pinocchio in the movie theater in my town, and I just really was mesmerized by it. But I had interest in being an artist. My father was involved in advertising and marketing in New York City, and so I was exposed to that advertising world, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go into advertising. So I was fortunate that I had a really good high school art teacher back in the day when they actually had art teachers at schools, because a lot of those programs have disappeared around the country. But I had, an art teacher, Mr. Hanslick, who was really a fine artist in his own right, and he exhibited his own work at galleries on Long Island and taught high school art. And he kind of took me under his wing because he knew I was serious about being an artist and not just taking it for credit, like a lot of people did. And so I wound up graduating from high school, and I enrolled in an advertising art program at State University of New York at Farmingdale. And I started going there, and one of the classes I had, I think it was my second semester of my freshman year, was a TV graphics class where we actually got to create artwork and then move it. And so we created a little bit of animation, but it was more for like news graphics and things like that. So it was very rudimentary animation, but it was still, you're seeing your artwork move. And I had played around with stop motion in high school and doing Super 8 films and things like that with puppets. But I thought it was really neat to actually take some two-dimensional flat artwork and create some animation. And then right around that time, a friend handed me an article from the New York Times that was spotlighting California Institute of the Arts out here in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And their character animation program, and the fact that Disney was sort of training the next generation of artists. And really kind of on a whim, I decided to send my portfolio out and apply to the program. The character animation program only accepted 30 students a year. And by the way, back in the day, we didn't have computers. We didn't have websites, where I could have posted my portfolio. I actually had a big black, zip up portfolio case that I had to crate and ship UPS out to the school for them to see my work. And then they had to ship it back to me.
Wow.
So I did that, and I was completely shocked that I got accepted, and I wound up getting a Walt Disney Scholarship, and I sort of bowed out of the advertising art program after 3 semesters, and I worked the 4th semester full time to just save up money so that I could go out to Cal Arts. And then I drove cross country and went there. The funny thing is about that article in the New York Times, it was written by a writer named John Culhane. And John Culhane, his cousin was Seamus Culhane, who worked at the Walt Disney Studios in the 30s and 40s. And fast forward, like, I don't know, 25 years, and I am actually at a restaurant in Pasadena having lunch with John Culhane, who asked me the same question that you just did. How did you get in? And I told him about this article in the New York Times, and he just lit up. He was a very animated person. He said, "My God, I wrote that article. I wrote that article." He was all excited, So it was kind of this full circle moment.
That's incredible.
Of meeting him. And so that was really sort of how I got out to Cal Arts. And I attended Cal Arts for 3 years, graduated early. So I think I graduated in May. It was May of '83. And by June of '83, I was working for the Don Bluth Studios in Studio City, doing the very early video games, Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. And I was there until I think February of '84, and they kind of had a big meeting in the parking lot and said, "We've run out of money. Everybody's laid off."
Awesome.
And I think it was the first of many of his bankruptcies. So I was talking to a friend. He says, "Hey, they were working on the Black Cauldron at Disney," and he says, "I know they need some help in the special effects department." And so I sent my portfolio over there and got hired by Don Hahn. And
there you go.
And started in May of '84. And I worked there for the most part from May of '84 until July of 2016.
Wow.
So it was a good run. It was a very good run.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So towards the end of that 32 years at Disney, I started to write. And so I kind of transitioned into writing full time, and now I've got, I think this is my 13th book.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's it in a nutshell. You can ask me questions.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, we will definitely, once we get through our next 2 questions, which I'm chomping at the bit to ask, we got to get through the next one so I can ask more.
Yep.
So when you visit Disneyland on your first day of your visit, do you have a particular way you like to go? Do you like to, first we kind of back this up because people like to talk about the tunnels. Are you a left tunnel or a right tunnel person?
I generally, facing the berm, I generally go through the right tunnel all the time because I always look at the left tunnel as the exit.
I do this. Yep, I understand.
Yeah,
I do the same.
So and then as I go down Main Street, I typically go to the left through Adventureland first, and I generally do the park from clockwork. Clockwise.
Yeah.
Yes. And the funny thing is, I put out a book back in 2020 called 3D Disneyland, like you've never seen it before, which is I took original stereo cards of Disneyland and we created anaglyph images of them so that all you had to do was wear a pair of these glasses.
Oh, fun.
To see it in 3D. And I laid out that book exactly how I would go through the park, and that's clockwise. So Main Street, Ventureland, and Frontierland, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland. Just going around that way. And that was just that was intuitive for me. It's like, oh, that's how I go through the park.
Yeah,
so that's
this
how
is
I'm
how you
laying
do
out
it.
this book. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, we
That's
can now
awesome.
say that we navigate the park just like Dave Bossert.
We do.
So
We do.
there
Well,
we go.
so the thing I would say though about my first time at Disneyland, my first time at Disneyland wasn't until 1980 when I came out to California. I actually had been to Walt Disney World several times because I grew up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I had been to Walt Disney World in 1976 for the bicentennial, and in 1978, which was the year I got out of high school. So it was like family vacations both times, and we went down to Orlando. So I was familiar with the parks and the characters and all of that, but I didn't get to Disneyland until 1980. And, one of the fascinations for me about Disneyland is some of the bygone attractions, including the House of the Future. And one of the reasons why I opted to write the House, because I have this entire list of books I want to write, and I'm just kind of crossing them off one at a time. But one of the things on my list was the House of the Future, and the reason for it was it had been gone for 13 years by the time I got to the park, and I was always fascinated by it. I always thought it was the coolest thing, and I wish I had gone through it.
Yeah.
And so I set that book up, if you notice, exactly the way you would have walked through the house.
Yeah.
And I even put the little map in the beginning of those chapters after I get through the introduction portion and how it developed and everything. But when it comes to actually taking the tour, I wanted it to be as immersive as you possibly could make it in a book.
Yeah.
So part of that was I wanted to go through room by room the way you would have seen it if you walked through it.
And I think that's the best way to do it because that makes the most sense. It'd be like you were there because nobody can go through it anymore. I mean, I don't know how else you I mean, I guess you could have just
talked about.
I could have just broken it down into a random set of chapters.
Yeah.
I could have just jumped around. I mean, there's any number of ways you could have done it. But for me, it just seemed like the right way to do it was to take the tour that you would have taken if you actually walked through it. So that's what I wanted to do with that. So anyway, but I kind of digress. But yeah, there's other things that I do want to write about that are park related because of the fact that I didn't really get to see them.
Well, that's a great way to do it because then you're preserving it for other people that also didn't get to experience it. But that's the closest way you're going to be able to experience it is through something like a book or like a video or, whatever it may be. So it's important to do that stuff.
Which nowadays we have tons of videos, but back in the day there wasn't.
Nothing.
Yeah, but I also look at it from the standpoint of when I started exploring doing the House of the Future book, I really felt like there was a lot more story to tell about it that was behind the scenes, and also identifying a lot of the furniture designers that had pieces in the house, and also correcting prior to my book, that photo of the quote architects in front of the house with Marvin Goody standing and the other guy sitting. Well, that was always identified as Marvin Goody standing. So that is Marvin Goody, the architect. But everybody noted the guy sitting as being Richard Hamilton, the other architect. But that wasn't. The guy sitting is Robert Whittier, who is the project engineer.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And so and by the way, as I was working on the book, I actually communicated with the son of Robert Whittier, the project engineer. And he asked if I would please correct this because his father's not getting the credit due him. And the only picture that I could find of Richard Hamilton, because he passed away only a few years after the house was designed and built, was his portrait from MIT, where he taught.
Oh, wow!
And I believe he died in 1959, right? So there's not a lot known about him.
Yeah.
Whereas there was more about Marvin Goody because he set up an architectural firm and all of those things. But anyway. Being able to sort of correct history and make some things right, to me, is an important part of doing the research on these books and stuff like that. So.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Last one, and then we can get into the good stuff that we keep seeping into, which is fine. It's going to be awesome. So what is your favorite attraction now? Even though we're a Disneyland podcast, this can be any attraction from any of the parks.
Well, really, I mean, first and foremost, for me, it's always the original Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland, because I had experienced Pirates of the Caribbean down at Walt Disney World first. And I thought, wow, that's really, it was such a great attraction, this, that, and the other thing. But then when I got out to Los Angeles and I went to Disneyland and I went on the Pirates of the Caribbean here, I was like, my God, this is much longer. I got ripped off in Orlando. That's a short ride. I mean, I was just, and that's what I always convey to people is that, if you've only experienced Pirates down at Walt Disney World, you're going to love it and enjoy it. But once you come out here and go through the original one, you're going to be like, what the heck?
I was missing so much and I didn't even know.
I got screwed down in Florida.
Well, and just the story building, too, I think is nicer at the Disneyland version than it is, because you kind of ease into the story more so.
I feel like each version of Pirates of the Caribbean, the three versions I've experienced, which are Paris, Magic Kingdom, and Disneyland, each has their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think, the strength of the Disney World version is the queue. We don't really have a queue at Disneyland. There's a little bit inside, but most of it's just out in New Orleans Square, which isn't that great. And the strength, I think, for Paris is that it's so different. Like the water drop, you end up in the pirate battle scene at the water drop, which is amazing as somebody who's used to the United States versions.
Yeah.
So, when I first went to Disney World, I remember thinking, because I had the opposite of what you had, which is I came from California, and I was like, this is weird. I'm riding Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, but it's not Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, but it kind of is. It's like an alternate universe version of Big Thunder Mountain. Same thing with Haunted Mansion and Pirates. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is these attractions. They're just different. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
So, Dave,
look, I think it's great that they change things up at the different parks and stuff like that. And, look, I think they were on a budget when they were opening Walt Disney World.
Yes.
Walt had already passed away. Roy O had come out of retirement to make sure, his brother's visions were being completed to some degree. So, there certainly was, I think, budgetary considerations that were going on early on at the park. But I still think that going through the caverns, going down the waterfall at the Disneyland version of Pirates, and then going through those diorama caverns, and then the big reveal as you come out of that into the pirate battle, that's one of the best reveals of an attraction that there is. I still think that to this day.
Yeah.
The thing.
And by the way, I think you could write an entire book just on Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm sure some people have done it. I think there might be one out there, but I mean, a real the company should do a deep dive on it. With a lot of archival material.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of visual development stuff done on the early versions of Pirates where it was just going to be a walkthrough, like museum almost type of thing. And, it just kind of mushroomed from there. So there's obviously tons of stuff, I think, in the company archives.
Add it to your list, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be the one doing it, but, somebody should.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's just always so crazy to me to think of Pirates and Haunted Mansion being thinking of what they are today versus the original thoughts of them being walkthrough attractions is just crazy.
And that they're still so popular today.
Well, I think that there's those iconic attractions at the park that will always be there. Pirates is one of it. Haunted Mansion's another. Small World. It's like those particular attractions, I think, are always going to be, they'll be refurbished and maintained and upgraded as the technology improves, but they'll still be what they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. All right. I want to talk about your career first, because the first movie that you worked on at the Walt Disney Company. I think like now people are talking about it. I was one of the children that was one of my favorite movies, The Black Cauldron. I couldn't tell you what it was specifically because it's very dark and it's very scary at times, but it's very endearing. And I think I loved it so much because it was so different. And you being on the special effects or the visual effects for it, there was a lot in that because you had all these cool, like this green smoke where all the little skeletons were.
The ectoplasm, we called it. The ectoplasm.
There was a lot of that going on. So can you kind of talk to us about what that process was like and how that kind of comes to be?
Well, when I got hired at Walt Disney Animation Studios, I came in at an entry-level position. I was known as an in-betweener.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like the lowest of the low in animation. It's the starting position, and you work your way up the ranks as you gain experience. And so for me, The Black Cauldron has a special place for me because it was my first screen credit. And I also... it's funny. I was doing an interview. I'm not going to reveal. I was going to tell you who. I was doing an interview with a very senior artist who's in his upper 70s who worked on The Black Cauldron, and we were actually talking earlier today.
Oh,
and part of that conversation, I said to him, I go, I feel like there's a line that you can draw that divides everything from Black Cauldron back to everything from the next picture, Great Mouse Detective, forward. Yeah. And I think that the Black Cauldron was sort of the last picture that had the lushness and the vibrant painting style of the classic Disney films, because that was really sort of the tail end of some of the people that who came up through the ranks with Walt. Wooly and Frank and Ollie were still around, and Milt Kahl and Joe Hale, who had been at the studio for decades. That they were involved in the Black Cauldron. And so, from my standpoint, I think that the Black Cauldron was also caught in the midst of the management changeover.
Sure, yeah.
Because in the middle of that movie, and I lived through that, there was a battle over the Walt Disney Company. There was a financier from Wall Street that wanted to butcher the company and sell off the pieces, sell off the film library, sell off the parks and all of this. And he thought there was more value, financial value in its pieces. And then Roy Disney, of course, rescued the company and was responsible for bringing in Michael Eisner and Frank Wells and then Jeffrey Katzenberg to sort of resurrect the business, Yeah. And Roy did that, I think, for the love of the company, and he created a rift in the Disney family because of it. Because his cousin Diane, Walt's daughter, was married to Ron Miller, and Ron Miller was the CEO, and he got pushed out. And there was bad blood between the two sides of the family for a while. But if you look back and you see what the Walt Disney Company is today, it's because of those actions that Roy E. took. And so I think Black Cauldron just got stuck. It was sort of caught in the middle of all that because with the new management team, they thought the movie was too dark. They didn't like aspects of it. They came in from the live action world and wanted to, quote, do reshoots. But you don't do reshoots with animation. You have to redraw it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a famous story about Jeffrey going into editorial and asking them to show. He wanted to see all of the outtakes.
Oh, yeah.
And in animation, there are no outtakes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
there is no B-roll, stuff, right? I mean, you're animating, the scenes that are in the movie, and you're trying not to animate something that's going to get cut out and not be used, And so the new management team, and this is typical at any business that goes through management transitions, that film was not theirs.
Sure. Yeah.
So they weren't going to really invest much into marketing that movie. That was the previous regime, and we don't want it to be a big, in some sense, they don't care if to see the movie become a success, because that was under the old management regime.
Mhm.
They're focused on the projects they're going to green light and want to make sure are successful. So I think that movie suffered from the standpoint it didn't have a lot of marketing support, and it kind of came and went from the theaters without much fanfare. There wasn't a lot of promotion or anything else done with it. But I think it's developed a cult following.
Yes.
And by the way, next year, 2025, is the 40th anniversary
Wow.
of that movie.
Wow.
The 40th anniversary. I mean, it's crazy. But, again, I don't think it's a terrible movie. I don't think it's one of the best, but I do think it's better than what what some people thought,
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you, when I was at Walt Disney Animation Studios, it's sort of towards the end of my career, like, when I was there for 20, 25 years, I would periodically do some screenings. And I had screened The Black Cauldron several years apart, but each time that I screened it, it was a full theater. In fact, one of the screenings, there wasn't enough seats, and people were sitting in the aisles.
Oh,
on the steps in the theater.
Yeah.
And it was because so many people hadn't seen it
Mhm.
or hadn't seen it projected on a big screen.
Mm.
So, in my mind, I think it's a decent movie, but it's not a great, the story is not great, but there's great animation, there's great background paintings,
Yeah.
there's great special effects. There's a lot of great components in that movie, but the story, could have been better. I mean, they were taking a literary work and trying to cram, I think it was 3 books into one movie. You know what I mean? So, but
it's the opposite of today, where they take one book and turn it into 3 movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I know exactly.
Crazy.
So I have a question that, since you mentioned this, I've been waiting to get this in, but I had to get to the point where you were there, which is in animation, and I don't know that much about animation, so I apologize. What is a special effects animator?
So a special effects animator really was a specialty that developed at the Walt Disney Animation Studios. Because in the early 30s and the early development of animation, the animators who were doing the characters, if the character was splashing in water, they would do the water effects, right? So you'd have some animators who were more adept at it than others. And so at Disney, they started to sort of coalesce a small group of people who were specializing in doing that. So if you look at, the incredible water in the Monstro the Whale sequence in Pinocchio,
Yep.
or the Rite of Spring sequence and other sequences in Fantasia, these were little April showers, with these drips of water at the beginning hitting the leaf, to the music. I mean, those, it was an area of specialty that various artists gravitated to, that handled anything that moved that wasn't a character or a background.
Yeah.
Kind of how I describe it in lay terms. And they called it special effects at Disney. Now everybody wants to be called a visual effects artist or, visual effects supervisor. I was a visual effects supervisor, so, but that's generally what it is. And that type of animation adds more reality, more illusion of life, if you will, to these movies, because, now, you're putting shadows under characters to anchor them to the background. You're creating lighting effects on characters when they walk into a room. I mean, there's a great scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I worked on, where, a lamp swings around, it gets hit and it swings around, and you could see the lighting change on the characters. That all those things just anchor the characters into the scene that much more and just make it more believable. It helps to draw the audience into the story and sort of experience the world that much more. And when some of those things are missing or aren't done well, you you would look at it and feel like something's wrong, but you might not know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to if I was sitting next to you going, hey, look at that just pulled you out of the screen because it pulled me out because that doesn't look right. So,
I feel like that's gotta be a position that people, like you said, like it's something that people don't realize how much value it brings. And so I feel like it's probably one of the positions that people don't give enough credit to. Everyone like thinks of animation of just the characters, but you're right, like little things like the leaves blowing in the wind or the shadows and the lighting and all that's huge. But
like I often tell people special effects is a supporting role.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and in every movie there's a moment or two or a sequence where the special effects become sort of center stage, but just briefly. If you think of the opening of Little Mermaid and the storm sequence, right? The storm, the waves, the water, the fireworks, the ship exploding and sinking, all of those things are, real visual delights to watch and look at, and they sort of become a little bit more of a starring role. But generally speaking, the special effects are a supporting character to the stars, which are the characters that are telling the story, So, and I had always sort of viewed special effects that way, and I felt like my job as a special effects animator was really to support the character action that was going on and make it that much more believable.
Yep. Makes sense.
Well, like you said, it's important. You have these characters, but what adds to the realism of it is all of that additional stuff like shadows and all the extra stuff. I'm just looking at your IMDb thing because I did not realize, because I know you as an author, and I'm looking at all these movies that you worked on, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you worked on Great Mouse Detective and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and The Land Before Time, which when I was a kid, I felt like The Land Before Time was like the thing that everybody was watching for a long time. And Little Mermaid, of course, and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. One of Teresa's favorites, of course, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which you did the snow animation for, is what it has you.
I was accredited as a snow animator. And the funny thing about Nightmare Before Christmas was that was done at a studio they set up in San Francisco, a studio they called Skellington.
I love it.
And it was being done by Disney, and they needed some help on a few things. When you do stop motion, you're using rigs to hold puppets and things like that.
Yeah.
So there needed to be some rig removal done where, it's digitally painted out. There's stabilizing a shot that might have, somebody bumped the camera and there's a little jiggle, or a light went out in the middle of a shot and you're watching the stop motion and all of a sudden there's like a boom, the light change over in the corner. So we had the computer animation production system at Walt Disney Animation Studios, the CAP system. And so we were able to, let them come to us with shots and say, here's the issue. And they would ingest it into the computer system and fix it for them. And then one day somebody came in and said, hey, do you think you can help them on Nightmare? They want to put snow in a sequence. And it was sort of like, stop motion film. How do you do snow?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was really about, creating that. And it was, this is like 92, 93. The movie came out in 93. So it's probably early 93. I went up to Skellington and talked with Henry Selick and, found out what it was they were looking to do. And then I was able to work with a really talented software engineer named Trin Huang. And Trin was writing the software because in 93, it was still the infancy of computer animation.
Yeah.
And there really was no off-the-shelf particle system package. Like today, I mean, we all could just buy a package and do it on our home computers. and in our garage or whatever, and create our own snowstorm. But up until that point, if we were putting snow into a movie, we were using live action snow that we would create what's known as photostats, and those would be photographed on a second pass on an animation scene, right? So what I mean by that is they're double exposed.
Yeah.
So you're shooting all the cell animation, then you're rewinding the film in the camera back to frame one, and then at a low percentage you are reshooting over that, but you're only exposing these photostats that are black and white, and the white is the snow moving, right? So you're changing them out frame by frame, and you're basically superimposing snow into the scenes. So that's how we did do it. But for this film, that we went ahead and did digital snow, but we had to create the software to do it, and so that's what I jumped in and did to help them.
Wow,
so,
that's incredible.
So I had like this tiny little part, and I have a screen credit on the film, but you fast forward to whatever it was, 2014, 2015, when somebody at publishing asked if I'd be interested in writing a new book on the making of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I said, well, I worked on it. And they were like, no, we didn't know that. Oh, wow, that's even better.
You're welcome for the snow.
Yeah.
And, but I also knew a lot of the artists. And so it was really great to be able to go and talk with all the artists and actually write a story through the eyes of the artists on the making of that movie. So
it's incredible. I don't know. I think it was a stop animation that drew me to that when I was younger. And I remember when the DVD came out and you had the extra like behind the scenes thing, I would just watch the behind the scenes. I wouldn't even watch the movie because it was just fascinating to me, that process. So, and like learning about, because I think the other thing that comes to mind too, that was a special effect after the fact, was the ghosts in the opening song, them kind of floating around. What is it?
This is Halloween.
Yeah. There's like those ghosts too are just like, I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, there's
those
fire animation and stuff too that they did. Yeah.
And that was all done. That was all done as 2D animation. And again, they would shoot the stop motion animation, and then they made photostats of each frame that was with animation peg holes, so it was all registered, and the special effects animator would put down a photostat and actually put a piece of paper over the photostat and be able to register the fire to Jack the Pumpkin King as he bursts in the flames.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's amazing that any of these things were ever made, because like just the amount of like labor and stuff and the process, which is amazing. Like the reason I think people really like this stuff is because it's so amazing, and there was a lot of work put into it. I watched totally unrelated to Disney. I watched a documentary, you can see it on YouTube, of how they made back in the day when HBO came out. There was this whole animation where they flew over this town, and then it flew into space, and the like HBO logo like came out, and everybody thought it was computer animated, but it was all practical effects. And it's this whole video talking about how like there's these like beams of light that you see in it, but it's this strip of LEDs or whatever that they like swooshed by the camera. I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. And then hearing you talk about all the stuff with the stop motion and Nightmare Before Christmas is just amazing that that anybody would be like, this is going to be a really time intensive, probably expensive thing, but let's do it because it's cool,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you look back, or I look back at some of these movies, I mean, it's kind of comical the way some of them come together. It's almost like organized chaos, but they come together, and really what matters is the end product that people see in a movie theater. It doesn't really matter, if there's, bubble gum and Band-Aids outside the frame holding stuff together. You know what I mean? It's sort of, once you get it into the theater and people enjoy it. But, look, the processes improve and the techniques improve over the years. And Nightmare Before Christmas was really the first stop motion feature film to
Yeah.
ever be released by a major studio. So and it kind of opened the floodgates, so to speak, because now you have so many other companies that are
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm.
Aardman over in England, and you've got Leica Studios up in Portland. And they're all turning out some incredible films.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
One last thing that I just want to mention about effects is looking at the movies you've worked on, I can think of specific effects things that were like revolutionary for the time. So like Beauty and the Beast, you were talking about they did some computer animation with Nightmare, but the ballroom scene, my understanding is that was like the first computer animated kind of thing in an animation. And then Aladdin, when they're, the carpet flying through the Cave of Wonders. And I actually even think parts of the Cave of Wonders line and stuff. So I'm just looking at like your list of movies you worked on. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, but first off, I'll tell you the first Disney animated film to have CG animation in it is actually the Black Cauldron.
Oh,
because there's a little boat and a few other minor things within the film that were generated on an HP desktop computer.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then when we went on to Great Mouse Detective, the next picture, they had upgraded from the HP desktop to what's known as an IMI 500. It's like literally like a museum piece now. But at the time, it was this incredible graphics computer, and they were able to do the clock gear sequence inside Big Ben in The Great Mouse Detective. And, and again, the images were being plotted out onto paper, animation paper that was registered, but we had to go in the special effects department and actually clean up a lot of that stuff because the hidden line software was awful. It was like rudimentary. So, sometimes the line that wasn't supposed to, was supposed to be behind something, it was still drawn through. We had to go in and white it out with paint and things like that. And then we had to use, pencils or pens to close off lines that weren't, finished and things like that. So again, it's sort of the spit and bubble gum kind of thing behind the scenes to actually make it come together.
That's a gorgeous scene. The have you seen The Great Mouse Detective?
I have not.
The inside the clock tower is just amazing. Beautiful.
The one thing I'd say is that, from Black Cauldron, each film had a little bit more of computer animation, computer technology being introduced to it. And when you get to Beauty and the Beast, you have that spectacular ballroom sequence. And then in Aladdin, you have the tiger head.
Oh, yeah.
That comes to life, among other things. And then when you get to Lion King, you have that spectacular wildebeest sequence that they did. And each movie, the technology was improving and the appetite to use it was improving.
I think it's hard to talk about a favorite film because you worked on so many incredible films. But are there any maybe sequences or pieces of films that maybe stick out to you as some of your favorites that you got to work on?
Yeah, and I'm glad you qualified it that way because, I often get asked, what's your favorite movie? Well, first off, my favorite Disney animated film is Pinocchio. I think it's a masterpiece. And then of the movies I've worked on, I can't give you a favorite because it's like asking me who's your favorite child.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's a great lineup too, just for stories.
but the one that bubbles to the surface is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because I lived in London when I worked on that, and it was a very international crew of artists, and I have friends all over the world because of that experience, and so it's both a memorable film to have worked on, but also externally, it's all the friendships and people that I still see to this day, that I became friends with when I was in London.
That's amazing.
So to me, I kind of view Who Framed Roger Rabbit as one of those films that, sparked a lot of different things, both in the movie and outside the movie. So I wouldn't say that's my favorite movie. That's my and it is a great movie. I mean, I still think after all these years, and it's like now 30 plus years since that came out, it to me holds up really well.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I watched it, gosh, I want to say about a year ago, and I really put a critical eye on it, because I've seen it so many times. And really, there was only like one or two scenes in the movie where I said, if they really wanted to, they could go in and digitally fix that,
Oh, sure, yeah.
But, that was it. The rest of it really holds up, I think, very well, considering it was not done with computer technology.
I'm just
Which is
always
amazing to think of.
Impressed that the fact that like today this movie would never be made because it got all of the animated characters like from different studios together in one movie. And that's just amazing. That's like a triumph of just working together.
That was all Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And it was just Steven Spielberg picking up the phone and calling the different studios and those different studios going and say, "Oh, absolutely, Steven. Yeah, whatever you need." So I mean, that's really what it boiled down to. And I think just about everybody realized to get all of the different characters together in Toontown as if they were all part of the Hollywood scene, you had to have that cooperation, and it was good for everybody to get, all the characters got, some kind of promotion, and put out there in front of a new generation of people. So I think it was just a win-win for everyone.
Incredible. So we've talked about films that you did the special effects animation on, but you've also kind of worked on some other projects outside of animation that we'd like to talk about. So
I was going to say, like, my career keeps evolving.
Yeah.
And I keep moving on and doing different things. So, I had a really great run on all these pictures at Walt Disney Animation Studios. And really my last real picture that I actually worked on was Fantasia 2000. And then after that, I started doing special projects, and I eventually became the head of special projects. I was a producer, creative director, and all that. So part of special projects was really doing projects across the entire Walt Disney Company globally that needed animation support, needed animation components or something. And that could be anything from a frame of film to full-blown production.
Oh, gee, yeah.
And so I did a lot of stuff for the parks, like, the World of Color, the original opening version of that nighttime spectacular, World of Color, Paris Dreams, Once Upon a Time over in Tokyo, these outdoor spectaculars that had projections on architecture and water screens and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So I had my fingers in a lot of stuff. My group even, we even supplied animation for the, Dancing with the Stars Disney episodes that they did every season.
Yeah.
So there was all kinds of stuff. And again, it's just this continuous evolving of one's career and doing new things and branching out. So, and that led to the books. So I brought it back for you.
There you go.
Well, now now see, we can't move on because you've said some things now that I feel like I have to ask you about.
Yeah, please do.
So we have interviewed Evan. He still works for Disney Live Entertainment, and he's done things for Fantasmic. He's done things for the Christmas shows on the stuff. He's in Florida. And so I just want to ask you, as someone who's worked on doing animation for some of these spectaculars, like I'm always curious with Disney because it seems like to the guest that it's a lot of times the nighttime shows are, oh, here's some clips from the movie that we've like put in this spectacular. Obviously there's stuff that's animated fresh for it, but I guess how do they balance that, or is that even anything that you know anything about as being involved?
Yeah,
in these projects?
I mean, I think part of it is, look, I think with Fantasmic at Disneyland, it was really just clips. It was clip based, right? Because I actually did a little work on Fantasmic at one point, and it was really just about restoration and replacing some of what they were using with clips that were cleaner and better and restored, if you will. Whereas with something like World of Color, you're using a combination of existing animation and new animation, and it's really about how you link it together. And the best example I'll give you for World of Color, and I don't even know if it's still in World of Color or not, but when we opened the show, there was Bambi ice skating. If you know the sequence in the movie, it's a series of cuts, right? They're cutting back and forth between Bambi and Thumper, and right. And what we were able to do is we were able to take that original animation of all those scenes and create one long scene that was not a series of cuts. And we did it by bridging we had new animation that bridged between scenes to create one continuous scene of them on the ice, as opposed to the cutting back and forth, right? So we're always looking for creative ways, or at the time when I was working on it, we were looking for creative ways where we could repurpose things, but also expand them and present them to the guests. They'd be familiar, but they're seeing it in a different way for the first time. And
that's really cool.
That was always the sort of goal we were trying to go for on a lot of that stuff, you know. And those shows are very complex shows because there's really hundreds and hundreds of people involved on the teams. You know, World of Color, you know, they got a slew of patents out of that for water screen technology, water nozzles, LED lighting systems for each of the 1,800 water nozzles that's in the lagoon. I mean, it just goes on. And, you know, so you have all these incredible engineers and lighting designers and all of these people. So, you know, everybody's role, you're a component in this giant team that are all being orchestrated by Steve Davison, who was the sort of the creative director in charge of the whole project. So there's a lot that goes into those shows. Again, they're expensive. There's budget concerns, but it's really about being able to work really smart and figure, how you can use existing material and add new stuff to it to create a new experience.
Makes sense. Another scene I'm thinking of from World of Color is The Colors of the Wind, because I think at one point you see Pocahontas, she kind of like runs from screen to screen to screen, which definitely doesn't happen in the film. But they kind of, that's another thing that I'm sure was added to like blend the actual scene in.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about like budget constraints and stuff, and as a guest, obviously I don't know how all this stuff is done, but I always think like Fantasmic, right? Fantasmic debuted in 1992. Like they're getting years of thousands, hundreds of thousands of guests who have seen this show, millions probably of guests.
Really, millions.
And so to me, it's always like, well, just spend a little bit more money and get like fresh new animation. Stop trying to like shoehorn, because like you can tell there's parts of it that like, you know, Ursula is saying something, or like the evil queen in the mirror is saying something, and you could tell like, you know, those aren't the original words that went with that or whatever, but they kind of like, it was close enough. And it's just like, just add it. Like how hard could that be to just add it? You have the people, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, you know, if you were to approach things like that, you're giving people enough rope to hang themselves with.
Sure.
You know, and by having people work within a box, it forces them to be more creative.
Sure.
I think, you know, that's always been my, you know, view of the world, is that, you know, if you only have so much time and only so much money, what can you do that will still be impactful? And it makes the creative juices flow more, and you become more inventive in what you're doing. And by the way, you know, a perfect example of that, just to shift gears, but you can still see it at the resorts at the parks, the Safety Smart films that I produced and directed with Pumbaa and Timon.
Yeah.
Right? The first one we did, we had no budget for it. We had a budget, but it was so constrained. It was difficult to figure out even if we could do the project effectively. It was an 11-minute movie that we were creating, an 11-minute film with songs, with a score. I mean, all this stuff. And we had this, you know, it was like a small budget. and so I started brainstorming with a friend of mine who was the production manager, and we were just spitballing ideas. And what we came up with was we would be able to repurpose all of the backgrounds from the Oasis sequence in The Lion King.
Oh,
So we all the backgrounds, for the most part, there's a few custom things that we had to do to tell the story, but all the jungle backgrounds are actually from the Lion King feature, right? And then we were able to get, there was some animation we could repurpose and things like that we were able to go in and shoehorn together this project. And when we finished that and delivered it and screened it for the executives, because it was a partnership with Disney and the Underwriters Laboratories, they were flawed. They thought that we were giving them the Lion King movie, that it turned out that well, right? And I just, when the screening ended, I looked over and they were all, jubilant and, well, we've got to do more of these. And I said, that's great, but we ain't going to do them unless we have more of a budget, And they right there, they said, don't worry about it. We're going to actually give you more money because these are great. This was great.
Awesome.
So, and we wound up making 8 of them, and they play on one of the resort channels in the hotel rooms. If the next time you stay at one of the hotels, flip through the channels, you'll see it, because I've seen it many times down in Orlando and also on the cruise ships. And every year, without fail, somebody sends me a message through social media saying, "Hey, you don't know me, but I just wanted to know. I my kids were watching the safety, and I saw your name. Blah blah blah. So, so it's nice to know that they're still being shown and that people are enjoying them. But that speaks to the better the quality, the longer the shelf life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And if you do things of really good quality, they're going to stick around for a long time.
Well, if you enjoyed listening to the show, please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcast app. It helps other Disney fans become weekly tiers and part of the community.
Looks like we're coming in for a landing, gang. But please stay listening until trivia comes to a stop. And then you can walk to the nearest exit. Thanks for listening to the 8th wonder of the world, DLWeekly.
Welcome back to Trivia Land. We're still here. Maybe some lost gems like the House of the Future could be good for future trivia, right?
There you go.
Maybe while it's fresh in your mind, but...
I feel like you missed out on Welcome Back from the Future.
Oh, and you're about to go into the future, too. Oh. So many things. I will be better in 2025. 4 questions. Let's get back to them and see how you did this week. Question number 1, what band added a rockin' theme to Space Mountain in California Screamin' for a short time in 2007? You both were on the right-ish track, but didn't get to the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh. Dang. We were way off, I feel. Thinking Red Hot Chili Peppers versus the Stones and Metallica.
A little bit different genre of rock.
Yep, a little different rock.
Yeah, yours would have hit a little bit harder for sure. So.
Can you imagine Space Mountain though? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. Kiss would have been fun.
That could go crazy.
So. Nobody gets to see me, but I did have my pinky and my pointer finger up, and I was bobbing my head just then. So
bobbing your head, head banging tag,
head banging. You can tell I'm a real hardcore rocker.
He's a mosher in training.
Oh my goodness,
that was great. I need to find a video of this. I need to see how this. It's too bad you can't go back and experience it, right? So I want to see if I can find a video to see how this would have mashed up. I mean, they committed to it. It was a whole year that they transformed it, so it must have been pretty darn cool.
4 months, actually.
4 months?
Disney usually does things for a long time.
They still committed.
January to April. So, I mean, we've done Space Mountain in silence when we were in Paris, so I can imagine this will be fascinating, too. Let's move on. Question number 2. In 1987, what type of temporary ride was added to the park that Walt had explicitly avoided adding when Disneyland first opened? You both went with a Ferris wheel, and I have good news for you. It's not one Ferris wheel, it's 2 Ferris wheels. They had one outside the train station and one in the hub, which later moved on.
Huh.
Dang.
In 1987 and 1988, they did like a state fair theme throughout the park.
Oh,
and so that was
there
part
you
of
go.
the draw to it. So, yeah, eventually one of those moved back to Big Thunder Ranch, but it's pretty fun to see the picture of a Ferris wheel in front of the train station.
I was thinking about that with the hub. You don't get to see the castle at the end of Main Street. You get to see a Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel.
Okay, I'm looking at this photo. Did they shut down the train that year? Because the Ferris wheel is like on the train tracks.
Oh,
I
really?
have no idea.
That's what it looks like from the photo I'm looking at.
It really does. Yeah, because I'm like, either that's really gently placed on the platform, or yeah, you're right. It probably had to. So.
Oh, wow. Dang.
That's crazy.
State Fair 87 Disneyland. Look at that.
And on the little button that they had with it is super cute too. So that one's totally worth looking into.
Wow.
Also in 1987, the park introduced Disney dollars. How much money did they initially put into circulation? You two guessed very low.
Oh.
Very low.
Okay.
Because they started with $2 million.
$2 million.
I just thought that, that was my problem, I thought.
That
It
was my
was-
problem, I thought.
Right. It was super interesting to read about this too, because they talked about how they were trying to make sure the money was distinctly not confused with U.S.
sure,
currency.
yeah.
So they're like, we'll do $3 with the little pigs or $7 with other things. But the marketing was like, people will impulse buy one Disney dollar. A $3 thing might be a little much. And so that's why we got Mickey on the ones and then the few other ones that came with it. So
There we go.
and now they're gone. But man, there was a lot out there.
They still live on in different collectors' things.
And in our memories.
And, we've got a couple here that, because I was that kid that also got them and hung on to them. But I think I only hung on to like the dollar ones, because I'm looking online here and they had like Goofy was on the 5 at one point, and like there was all sorts of. There's a Pirates one. That's cool.
Cinderella was there for a bit too, I think.
Yeah. I'm seeing like, there's a 50. I was going to say, I'm seeing like 10. 10's the highest that I'm seeing on my quick little search here, but I did just see a $50 one. That looked like it was a special anniversary year. How interesting. Disney dollars.
Apparently we have to-
deep dive we didn't know we needed.
That's what I was just going to say. We need to do a deep dive on Disney dollars,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes.
Here you go. All right, my final question for you. Main Street is set in 1910, Tomorrowland in 1986. What out-of-this-world object do these dates share a coincidence with? The follow-up question will be what will happen again when we see it in 2061? It's Halley's Comet. Well done, you two.
Good job, Tag. How crazy.
Boom.
You two hitch a ride together. It works out well.
It does.
I
How
did
crazy.
not expect that.
It's one of those things like that had to have just been a coincidence. I doubt that they set those time periods specifically. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Oh, 100%. It was just too good not to share.
How interesting.
So, folks at home, as we head into a new year, you have some interesting trivia you'd love to hear Teen T struggle with or succeed at in 2025? Now's the time to submit it. Just head on over to our website, dlweekly.net/trivia, and producer Vern and I can hopefully ask it on the show in the future.
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
And a special thank you to Sidel for editing the podcast.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.